Welcome to the very first Business Banter Plus Hangout Show. And I'm here with Jeff Waldman, who is going to be telling us some very exciting news about a new entity that he's going to be unveiling here today, here in Canada. Jeff, I met at Social HR Camp. I met him in person there. We had connected on Twitter prior to that. And great to see you, Jeff. Happy to have you here.
Thank you very much, Elaine. It's great to be here. Be your first guest.
Yay!
Ever. Yeah.
So what I'd like to start with, Jeff, is maybe getting a little bit of your background.
Okay. Well, basically, my background is in HR management, HR and business mixed together. So I started in Vancouver, and then then I went to Alberta, and then I've been in Ontario, Toronto area for about 9 years now. So I've worked with small to large companies, startups, all the way up to large corporations in all facets of HR. And just in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, we've really gotten into social media. So, and the focus of my work has really been on helping HR groups leverage social media in the workplace, and it's been a long haul, but so that's really my passion and my focus. I do a lot of blogging, writing, speaking, and I do a lot of community work as well with some of the community groups here in Toronto, and also in Vancouver.
Well, that's awesome. It was really interesting for me to go to Social HR Camp and learn so much about the HR field, because quite frankly, it's not my field. I'm straight social media. So what I'd like to maybe talk about is, why don't you give us a little background on Social HR Camp?
Okay, sure, yeah. Well, it started actually last year. So I think it was the early spring of last year, and it actually started on Google.com, actually. So I went to Google, and I put in a search. I think it was media engagement in HR. So I was trying to find some articles, white paper, anything out there that I could read and sort of learn from. And I came across a white paper that was written by somebody based in Vancouver, Squamish, actually. And her name is Christine McLeod, and so she wrote this white paper about social media engagement and HR. I read it, loved it, contacted her, and she got back to me right away. And the next day had a 2-hour conversation with her about this, and then we also agreed that I'd fly out to Vancouver and I spent about 3 or 4 days there, collaborate. And then after that happened, Impact 99 was born. So Impact 99 was a conference. So it was the social media conference, and it was targeted at the HR profession. So we ran a conference in Toronto and Vancouver last year. They're still doing it, so they have 2 conferences coming up, and then I started Social HR Camp because I really liked the camp concept, and so I broke away from the Impact 99 brand and started Social HR Camp, which is essentially is all about the actual audience and trying to keep it as local as possible. I don't like keynotes. We don't do big name speakers, that type of thing. It's all about conversation in the community, and HR people are actually learning how to do social media. And so we ran a camp in Vancouver, which was in May, that had about 60 people, and then in Toronto, had close to 100. And so for Toronto, just to give you an idea, we ran 24 sessions, so all packed into one day, and multiple tracks, multiple sessions happening at once, and you get to chart your own learning path. And so it's actually the first ever unconference that targeted at the HR profession that spans more than one country. So it's a pretty interesting idea. And so the upcoming camps will be in San Francisco and Boston. And I just love it. It's just a really great platform for me to learn, educate others, and generate ideas. So.
Excellent. I'm really glad to hear that. And you do have more coming up. I understand the next one is in Boston. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's Boston. We've had a bit of a change with the economic downturn recently in Europe. We've had to postpone both the Amsterdam and Dublin camps this year, and just focus primarily on North America. So New York will also be pushed to next year as well. So, and that's just purely based on market conditions. So we'll be focusing this year Toronto, Vancouver, San Francisco, which is really heating up, and then finishing the year in Boston, which will be held at the Google headquarters.
Excellent, excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I got to go see Google Plus, well, the Google offices in New York City, which are really very cool. You'll enjoy it when you finally get there. So let's move on to why we're really here today, and I'm really excited about your new entity. I keep saying entity because I don't know an awful lot about it. It's been very hush-hush.
Well, I mean, for those of us who know me well, know that I was recently in a partnership with Jeff Webb, and under the name of a social HR. And so, what happened was, basically that company will be shutting down towards the end of the month. And so I've decided to branch out on my own and really focus on some of the things that I love and have been doing. And I really feel that there's a huge market opportunity right now globally. And although I haven't picked out a name yet, I'm currently going through a bit of a branding process. So we're sort of starting the branding, which website, logo, color scheme, and all of that type of stuff. But essentially, the business is focused solely on social employer branding. So it's working with HR group organizations to help them leverage social media tools in the workplace. And so one of the reasons, and I mean, it's very similar to what we're trying to do with Social HR Camp, but this is actually getting right into the organization themselves. And I mean, HR is under immense pressure, obviously, from a business standpoint, and I think the opportunity is now for HR to really start to understand social tools, to be able to add way more value than they've ever been able to create before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I think it's really important, especially now that Google Plus, for one, has gotten its legs. We're way past the 1-year anniversary, and social media is developing at an exponential rate. So it's a great time for all the HR people to really jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, HR typically have a very low adoption rate to technology.
Yeah.
So, having said that, even with that being the case, globally, it's no secret that if you're able to integrate technology into the workplace, that actually makes sense for the business, and it actually works to support business strategy, then it's going to be it's a huge plus for you. So why not social media? I mean, after all, I mean, LinkedIn has a population of about 250 million plus, Facebook almost 1 billion, Twitter, I think the number is around 500 million or more, 700 million.
Yeah.
So the audiences are huge, and I think the stereotype of say, for example, Twitter, I don't know what you're eating for supper tonight. Well, that's a bit of a stereotype, and so there's so much more than that to it, and I think they are. Yeah, I think people are starting to return.
Yes.
I've seen it firsthand in the social HR camps. Right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, people were tweeting from every single session. There were tweets going out the entire day, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And at the concert after as well. The young Ariana Gillis is
Ariana Gillis,
quite amazing, quite amazing. Let's get to the meat of your new entity, and I understand social employer branding, and you have a couple of prongs there. So take it away.
Yeah. So basically, under so there's sort of three parts to this business. The first is social employer branding, and that's sort of the actual meat of it. So there's a couple of things under there. The first one is a social employer brand audit, and so what that is essentially it's taking a look at all of the organization's social media property and trying to assess how impactful they are to that company's employer brand. And so I have done some work in the past. I was with Monster Canada for a short period of time, and I was able to come up with a visual tool that gives senior HR executives a really good understanding of how social media actually impact them. And it's a really good starting place, for a lot of companies to really understand, what works for them, the strength, the competition, what they're doing, and it really gives them a really solid base in which to identify, where they might want to go.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then from there, really there's a bunch of things that could flow from that. And the first one, which has been quite popular, is training. And so with social media use in the workplace, more from an HR standpoint, it's still quite low. So starting with a social media 101 for HR training module program is absolutely critical. You can't talk strategy unless they actually understand, sort of the basics. And so that's a really popular product right there. So I have so we have a really good 101 training module, for HR pros. Then the other one is really strategy. So really helping HR sort of intertwine social media into their HR strategy. So it's not building a social media strategy; it's intertwining social media into their business strategy. Different, right? So it's not a separate thing. It should be a business practice that has to be mixed in, with what they're already doing.
And part of, if I can interrupt you there for a second, Jeff, part of what I think is most interesting and why I really wanted to have you on the show, I feel your approach to HR is so completely out of the box. Anybody who's not within the field of HR tends to think of it in a very small niche that is related to, the old job search, etc. Why don't you riff on that for a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very good point. I mean, most people in my own personal network who aren't in HR think of it as hiring, firing, payroll, that type of thing. You know what? Those are absolutely critical functions, but they're small little part of it. So those administrative pieces are still very critical. But then you ask yourself, where's the real value coming from? And it really comes from helping the business attract new talent. Orient them to the business, get them up to speed on performance, attention, and then trying to sort of place them, somewhere else in the organization. And that's pretty a simple, philosophy. And if HR is in the business of people, then don't you think that social media should be a big part of it? Because after all, social media is all about conversation between people. You're not having a conversation with a robot or a computer screen. it between people. And so and the whole idea of that philosophy is taking you know you know you know traditional HR practices and sort of modernizing them, and it's leveraging technology, because you know what, there are no borders anymore, right? So you can have people working for you, sitting at home in India or Brazil or Russia, and they can all be really connected via technology. So
Absolutely. And to speak to that, I have to say this is one of the best new features available for anybody with a satellite office. Any group that are positioned around the world, what better place to meet than in a Hangout? And that was not a shameless Google Plus plug.
no, and anyway, I have to thank you for the Google Plus push. It's been absolutely fantastic platform so far, and I mean, Google is a very complicated software, but if you take the time to actually learn it,
Yeah.
which I'm doing right now, it has some amazing features. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Just within the Hangout itself, we have the ability to have our lower third, thank you, Moritz, the fabulous. It's just like anything you broadcast, it's good to be able to know who's speaking and what exactly their position is in the business world.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So getting back to some of the other stuff here. I mean, really, some of the other things that we will be doing is career site designs as well. So because a big part of the candidate experience, employee experience, customer experience is the actual website itself.
Yeah.
And also social media, social conversation has to be connected to those career sites. And so an example that I'll give you is what if you have a really good corporate culture, but on your career site you don't get that feeling of that really positive corporate culture? You are missing on absolutely huge opportunities. So the career site need to be branded. It needs to be the actual flow, the experience of people coming to it need to be closely aligned to what your actual employer brand is, and so that's a really critical part.
That's absolutely a great point. And I think what's really cool, you're really going to repaint the face of HR, and I see you doing huge things with this. So let's sort of go a little deeper into the say what is it that's available, or what are you going to make available for those that are looking to use HR to perhaps launch a new career or join another company?
So you're asking for job seekers, you mean?
The seeker side, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, because I'm actually doing a talk next week, and the topic is a first impression. So how you go about doing first impression.
Is that at the University of BC?
Yeah. So it's it's I went to school at the Stoddard Business School, and they have a group here that that does all of these types of workshops, so on. So they've asked me to come in and be on a panel to talk more from a personal brand sort of online point of view.
Excellent.
Yeah, and so job postings today probably represent maybe about 10%, maybe 15% of the available work out there. Yet I think it's over 80% of active job seekers use postings only as their core strategy. So what you have is you've got like a massive population trying to compete for a small pool of jobs. And so having said that, the way to do it is you need to be online, right? So because hiring managers Google you, Okay, so they're always going to go to Google and they're going to look, for information on you. So my suggestion is that you need to be actively managing constantly, what kind of information is out there on you. And so by doing that, need to have a LinkedIn profile. And so LinkedIn to me, it's not really social media, but it's a really excellent professional networking platform. So and you need to be on there because it has really good SEO qualities to it. And I'm not going to tell you why because it's sort of a Google LinkedIn thing, but the idea is to have a fully complete LinkedIn profile, and by doing that, you'll actually generate better results, from an SEO perspective, for you. And then I would suggest that you actively use Facebook and you actively use Facebook and other platforms as well because
Google Plus.
Sorry.
Sorry, had to throw that in. But yeah,
okay.
I do agree with you. And to that point, Jeff, to back up just an inch, when you're talking about, managers Google people, we had a discussion about this a couple of weeks ago in a Hangout, and it flew through Google Plus that it is so important for you to Google yourself.
Yeah.
Make sure you know what's out there. Make sure that you've got a good idea of what they're going to see if somebody is looking to hire you. That's
absolutely.
number one.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and this is a big part of business is really helping organizations optimize their, social media presence. And it's not just for marketing purposes or advertising purposes, but it's also for, when candidates or job prospects or customers, for that matter, do searches, they actually find a company, and the stuff that they find is actually pleasant stuff. It's good stuff that they want to read, they want to see, and so forth. And because the number one place that job candidates go to actually search for jobs is not a job board.
No.
It's not Facebook. It's not LinkedIn. It's actually Google.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. Absolutely. And to that end, reputation management is not just important for large corporations. It's important for you and I. It's important for everybody who does any business online. You need to be in control of your reputation.
Yeah, and it's the same argument for people as it is for companies as well. So it's exactly the same thing. There is no difference at all. I did some work last year with a client where the HR group had no idea that there were about 18 Facebook groups that had their actual name in it.
Yeah.
And I said, so based on that, do you even know, if they're talking about you in a negative way or a positive way? And we realized that there was one group, Facebook group, that got formed was a group of former employees that were using Facebook as a way to stay connected. And they were talking about the company in a really positive light. And I said, that's a great opportunity for you to tap into an audience and actually talk about that in terms of an employer brand value. So.
Great. That's really good to know. So let's move on from there. You're involved in Social HR Camp with another lovely young woman that I met as well, Salima Nathu.
Yep.
And you're going to be doing HR Camp stuff with her going forward as well?
Yeah, so to date, she's been a very big part of the actual social HR Camp planning process for this year. And she's been doing a lot of the social media engagement for us. And so going forward, we'll be collaborating a lot more closely, to push camps out for next year. And so we're just sort of going through we're just going through, some of the ideas, for next year. But it's a really good collaboration, partnership, on this front. So.
Yeah, she's a great person.
So to just dive in, sorry to interrupt your thought pattern, Jeff, because I just running in to very quickly say congratulations on the show.
Thank you, Martin.
It's going to be great. So yes, I'll be watching elsewhere. So I shall run off.
Yeah. Yes, Martin. Thank you very much, Martin Shervington. Please meet Jeff Waldman.
Hello.
Martin's a wonderful guy. Jeff is a fabulous guy, and I'm happy to have you guys get together.
That's great. We will circle and go from there. You just heard my buzzer go off. That's my food. So I'm going to run. Hey, I have to come in. Take care. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Little interruption in our flow there. Martin is a psychologist, a social media person, and stand-up comic in Wales. So that just gives you sort of an idea of the actual reach we have in a hangout. What you can do to bring in people from all over the world, not just here in Canada. Even for your new company, Jeff, you're going to be able to reach out to anyone, anywhere, which I think is absolutely phenomenal and really the way to go going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so I'm taking notes here, Elaine.
You're taking notes, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna quiz you later.
Yeah.
I wanted to give us a chance to open up to some of the people that were possibly were with us at Social HR Camp.
Okay.
And we can open up in about 10 minutes for other questions, but I wanted to just get sort of an idea. Do you have a time frame? You're already talking to new customers, I believe, and you have also a background. I understood that you've created software tools to use within HR. Yeah,
so there's two things there. So the first one is part of the philosophy of this business is to help organizations, use the right tools for them, right? So, yes, there are the mainstream platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, right? LinkedIn, etc. But there are a variety of other unbelievable tools out there, social media tools that are geared towards HR, and so they could be focused on, social performance management. They could be, with social recruiting. They could be, social payroll even, for that matter. So, part of the model is to develop, partnership with a lot of these various companies, so that I could actually offer the product to my customer. So that's the first part. And the second part of it is the plan going forward is to actually build our own software. And the first one likely would be a play on the employer brand audit. So, I really want to be able to sort of do something in the software space. And so I'm not going to say a whole lot about it right now. But that's something that I'm looking into.
Well, that's awesome. And a lot of, when you and I spoke about this, that each time that you've spoken about what you do, and you always talk about community. And how about you expand on the community? And just 1 second, I just want to say hello and welcome to Jane Boyd. Really happy to have you here. Jane Boyd is 45 Conversations, and I got to meet her in person in Toronto as well. Lovely, lovely lady. Welcome. Nice to see you here. Jeff, go ahead and let's talk to me.
Hello. Hi.
First of all, hi, Jane. How are you?
Hey, Jeff. Good.
So just want to let you mention too, Jane's new company is 45 Conversations, and they've done a lot of great work already, over the last few months, and they've actually helped out Social HR Camp. So, so we've been collaborating, together. And she's also a really big fan of Google Plus. So both of you two are my,
That's it.
champions. Yeah. So,
very, very true.
Yeah. So a community has always been something that I've always believed in. You know, I guess going back to my childhood, I guess, you know, for those who actually know me, you know that I was born hearing impaired. So, you know, and the only way that I actually survived in life is to have, you know, good people around me to sort of lean on. So, and that all really started, you know, when I was about 4 or 5 years old, when I was playing in team sport. So, team sport really taught me, you know, the art of leadership, you know, partnership, teamwork, you know, community, you know, that kind of thing. And it really doesn't matter, you know, what rank you are, or if you're a captain, or if you're you know, a rookie. It's about actually working, you know, together, and, you know, and validating other people's ideas. So, you know, so I've always taken that sort of with me, and so I think the first real big thing for me was really around the conferences, you know, that I organized last year, helped organize last year. It's really a collaborative effort. I mean, it's not about the rank of somebody speaking. It's about the fact that if somebody in the audience got one little thing to take away, and they were able to you know, contribute to the conversation in some way, that's all I really cared about. And I think that holds true with Social HR Camp, which is even more so all about ensuring that people, you know, talk. And you know, community is probably the first word that comes to mind when I use social media, because ultimately it's a community, right? I mean, you're obviously connecting with people of, you know, similar interests, you know, similar backgrounds, possibly, you know, similar thought and processes, and it's really about the idea of community, sharing ideas, you know, bouncing back and forth. And I could be collaborating with somebody who's a senior vice president, or somebody who's you know, a student in school. It doesn't really matter to me. So.
Yeah, and I found that at Social HR Camp there was like the entire stream from young people who were in fact students at Ryerson to older individuals who will remain nameless.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was quite a nice cross section for sure, and everybody was very collaborative, which was nice. Everybody was, you know, open and ready to share with everybody who was there, which I just thought was phenomenal. I hadn't met any of those people in person before, and it's really quite interesting to be able to get into a group of, you know, 100+ people and feel that comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, and that's the kind of thing that I try to bring to companies as well, because, you know, because the most successful companies out there who have, you know, highest engagement levels, who do, you know, great work, have excellent, you know, customer experiences, you know, tend to have that feeling of a community. And so a primary example that, you know, might be a WestJet. You know, WestJet Airlines, I mean, if you go there and you have some kind of interaction with them, you know, whether it's in the airport or online, you know, you get that feel of a community.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah. Jane, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Well, I mean, I had the pleasure of participating both in the Vancouver Social HR Camp. Speaking there, that was the, you know, sort of my first connecting up with Jeff and meeting Jeff, and then basically was in Toronto and participated in that one. I mean, it's a great opportunity for people to really engage with one another and connect, and you know, people are at all different levels. That's really what I found. But there was an incredible amount of sharing that was going on, and just, you know, generosity amongst the people who were really participating, right? Absolutely. And you know, it was so neat, because even, you know, I did a couple of presentations. Obviously, people were, you know, engaging during that, but even in the hallways, and, you know, as we were walking between workshops and you know, just different sessions, I really saw people asking and talking to each other, and, you know, hey, how do you do that? Or you know, I don't actually have a Twitter account and I'm nervous to start. How do I start? You know, all the way through to much more in-depth, you know, discussions at a more senior HR level. So I really appreciated, you know, the fact that the camp was able to connect with people at different levels, no matter where they were in the experience of using social media. And I agree with Jeff that, you know, the whole kind of camp concept works really well for that kind of situation and helping people to feel comfortable. It's kind of less intimidating, right? It's a more of a laid-back, comfortable environment. Yeah.
Yeah, it made it yeah, much more comfortable is definitely the word I would use, because it can be very intimidating, even within a niche such as HR, to go into a large group of people that you don't necessarily know. So this to me is that shift that social media has given an awful lot of us to a more community-based approach.
Very, yeah, very much so, very much so. And if I'll just do my one little plug here for 45 Conversations, and in terms of why we're doing a bit of a partnership with Jeff and kind of where he's going with this is that, you know, 45 Conversations, we basically have conversations with people online, similar to what you're doing right now in terms of having Google Plus Hangouts on air. So before the Toronto camp, we were able to have a few different speakers on and, you know, talk with them. As we move towards the San Francisco camp and the Boston camp, you know, we're going to expand that and have, you know, potentially not only conversations with track leaders or speakers, but even people who maybe are attending the camp for the first time or other people who haven't been at the camps before. And it's all about the idea of, you know, using this sort of forum to make people feel comfortable. So when they actually get there, they'll maybe have seen a conversation that has happened and feel all the more comfortable to go up to someone and say, hey, I saw that and I'm really interested to learn more from you. So it's a neat way to build that community and engagement for the camps in between the camps.
Yeah, and also too, I mean, the other thing too is that the actual structure of the camp is, you know, obviously 2 different tracks, right? So there's the beginner, you know, track, and then there's the you know, the sort of advanced level, you know, tracks. And so, you know, if I'm new to a social media, then I can sort of pick and choose sort of what I attend and, you know, don't see. So I'm not forced to go to any one session or 2. So I think that kind of flexibility and that, you know, customization really helps the actual attendee feel comfortable, because there's a stigma out there that, you know, social media is a scary beast, and you know, if I fit into that, you know, demographic, I'm expected to actually know it already, so people feel a little bit shamed by it. So you know, I'm trying to break all that, you know, into pieces, and it's okay if you don't know what a hashtag is. Guess what? I'm still learning about Twitter too, and I've used it, you know, for over 5 years. And so I will keep learning. You know, Facebook, you know, because Facebook keeps changing everything all the time. So, but that's the nature of it. So, you know, social media technology changes so quickly. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or advanced. You know, all of us are still learning. So.
Absolutely, and here on G Plus too, Jane, you'll attest to things change rapidly. But as Vic Gandotra said, and Chichu makes sure that the changes are always trying to up the ante and give us more usable features.
Very much so. Very much so.
And this is not a paid advertisement by Google, just so you know. It's just me.
No, but it is. But it is true. I mean, you know, there's so many different things that do shift. But I you know, you get pretty comfortable with that. I mean, you know, if you come to embrace change and know that it's happening all the time, then it's all the better, right?
Absolutely. I just want to take a second and say welcome to Yifat Cohen, my wonderful friend who is the go-to gal on Google Plus. I jumped out of her hangout to start mine. So it's great to have you here, Yifat. We're talking about HR and Jeff's new entity, which is yet nameless at the moment, but that speaks to, I think, Jeff's integrity in not going forward until he's completely sure.
Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Elaine.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So I was just going to say one other thing with respect to just the way the camp kind of concept works. Can I say that? Just
Please.
So something that I really noticed that happened in Toronto that was quite interesting was there were a couple of sessions around Twitter. So I think there was, like as Jeff was saying, there was an intro session and then a more advanced session, right? And Chris A. Young was the person who was presenting and speaking at both of those sessions. And something that I thought was really neat was, you know, the opportunity within the camp environment to really customize the discussion based on where people were at. So, you know, in terms of not sort of sticking to this cookie cutter approach of, okay, this is the content that I've agreed to deliver and therefore I'm delivering that. I think, you know, in one of those sessions, Chris really found that, you know, people were in a different place in terms of what they wanted to talk about. And so they may have started sort of talking about Twitter, but it evolved into a much more complex discussion about a lot of other things that also related to social media. And you know what? That was really driven by the people that were participating. So I think that that's a really important thing to note because, you know, a lot of times when you go to conferences or certain events, it's very much, you know, the content is there and it's being delivered and it's not as customizable, right? Whereas I think the camps, that really speaks to what Jeff is trying to do in terms of the camps being meeting people where they're at. And I don't know, Jeff, if you have some thoughts on that, but I really observed that happen in one particular session that Chris was doing. And I saw a lot of people really running with the content and almost taking ownership of it, and that was really intriguing to see unfold.
And absolutely, just before you speak, Jeff, just to what Jane was saying, the interactivity of it as well. Both sessions I ran were dictated by what the people there really wanted to hear about, because each of the platforms, be it Twitter, Facebook, Google+, or LinkedIn, there are so many facets to each of them that you can't cover it in a day if you spoke for the entire day. So I think it was really nice that the bulk of the sessions, everyone that I went to, was driven by what the people at the sessions really wanted to get from it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, the first point is that, you know, we tried to do, you know, sort of curate the topics in advance, and so that's a very new concept for HR people. So, you know, obviously using Nick Callett's Listly platform, which, by the way, is a fantastic platform. So it's list.ly. And so we were using Listly to try to generate ideas within the HR community, you know, in that city, to see what they wanted to actually talk about. And it's going to be a while before they sort of get it and sort of get on board with it. But that's one aspect of it is instead of the organizers, say me, for example, saying, okay, you know what, let's run a session on my Google Plus and let's do this, let's do that. I might be shooting blanks because I really don't know if the audience here in Toronto, you know, want to even talk about that or not. So it's sort of appropriate for me to actually go out to the community, and I think over time it'll get easier. I think more and more people in the HR field will start to actually understand the concept of, you know, crowdsourcing, you know, curating, you know, content, you know, all of that kind of stuff. The second point I want to make is last year when I co-organized Impact 99, the first half of the conference was focused on you know, keynote, panel discussions, you know, et cetera, and the afternoon portion was based on, you know, sort of a hand or, you know, sort of one-on-one learning. So it was highly interactive and it was small groups, and I think people you absolutely loved it, right? And they got more stuff out of that part of it. And by the way, you know, Impact 99 is a fantastic, you know, Canadian-based conference initiative, that I'm, fully supportive of. It's just that for my own personal interest, I felt the value add was really in the actual hands-on learning part of it. And so by doing that, then you can actually do what they want. And I think that's, really,
absolutely,
my two, key points right there.
Absolutely. So, Yifat, do you have any questions for Jeff?
I don't. I feel so bad because it's like, I'm like, I need to add something and I don't have any questions.
Well, this is kind of way outside our niche, if you will, because we're straight, social media online. We're not really anything to do with HR. So I found going to Social HR Camp was absolutely phenomenal because it allowed me to go outside of my box and see, could I functionally relate what I am and what I do to another area. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. What's that?
I do have a question.
Good.
Yeah. So do you think that HR is obsolete in small businesses so that they don't really need to hire their own HR person? They can outsource it to,
how much time do you have? Okay,
that's a bad question.
Here's my really simple thought. There are core functions that they don't need to be doing, and so that comes down to some administrative functions. So when it comes to payroll, when it comes to those types of things, anything administrative, they should be outsourcing, okay? But when you get into strategy type stuff, talent management, performance planning, like all of these various types of strategy-oriented functionality, they cannot outsource that because you need to understand the actual culture that's in the business. If you don't understand the culture, how can you farm that out? You can't, right? So things like administrative, things that are transactional, absolutely, you can get some outside, which frees up the time internally. Because my role in my previous life, I guess, as an HR consultant, practitioner, was I knew every single person in the company by first and last name, and I knew them personally because that allowed me to, be able to actually speak with them, with credibility, those types of things. And then if I wanted to, work on various projects, et cetera, I was actually impacting the business. Now that's a bit of a difference, I think, with a lot of HR practitioners in this country, anyway, in Canada. They tend to hide behind the legislation and the policies and the rules, and not much of an understanding for the actual business. So, that's why, my first question, when I go into a prospect meeting, is always, tell me about your key business issues. It has nothing to do with social media. It has nothing to do with HR. It's about the actual business.
That's right.
So to answer your question, yes, some of the stuff should be farmed out, outsourced. But I think a lot of anything to do with strategy, culture, talent, has to be kept inside.
So that's actually very interesting because I didn't think that was an HR role to make sure, to worry about the strategy and relationship. I thought that was kind of like the manager's role, and the HR was more how everybody kind of their personal life and how their relationship goes together.
Well, don't forget, okay, so you've got a business strategy, right? Every company has one, okay? Now, to me, a business strategy is just a piece of paper. So what actually, how do you actually enact it?
Right.
People have to be involved, right? So the people part of it, that's where HR gets involved, right? So then the HR strategy talks about how are we, the business made up of people, going to actually make this business strategy work. That's my point of view.
That's not the role of a manager or like a project manager or a guy in charge or something?
It depends on the structure, the size of the company. If you're a international, conglomerate of 150,000 employees, then obviously it's going to be different than if you're a company of about 75 people. but it really depends on the skill sets of HR. I've always hated having pure project managers leading this stuff because they tend not to understand the HR world. So you need to have somebody with an HR, background understanding that also understands business.
Yeah.
They can do it effectively. So.
Can I just jump in with a thought too? Because just sort of thinking a little bit about the social HR component, right? And I mean, Jeff, I know you'll have thoughts on this too. But I mean, for so long, of course, the whole world of social media has been really owned by the folks in marketing. And now what's happening is organizations are starting to realize that this is way broader than just being owned within, the world of marketing or that department or that division. And so as a result of that, stuff is starting to fan out now to the HR world in a bigger way. But it does create, I think HR they're just figuring out, hey, you know what, we've got a bigger role to play in this, and how the things that kind of come out through social media impact us within our department. So, I mean, it's interesting to see, I think, how that's going to unfold, and there's great opportunities for what Jeff is trying to do in relation to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, because I noticed, just probably going back to last year, I noticed that the sort of overall competency level of HR practitioners in using social media beyond just the basic Facebook, sort of personal use, is quite limited. And so that's one of the reasons why that I started the Impact 99 conference with my colleague out west, was because of that. And then, Social HR Camp, it's just another, phase, for me. But it's all about educating and learning and, that kind of thing. So, yeah. And, so, I memean, it's a place for the HR community to come together and to actually learn about some of this stuff. So because if you don't know the basics, then how do you know if it's going to work inside of the business, right? So you have to start with square one.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
I really think that sort of rounds us out in our hour here. But what I wanted to say, Jeff, was actually I think the best time to strike is when the iron's hot, and you are coming in at exactly the right time. So my hat's off to you. I absolutely wish you well. I thank you so much for coming on the show. Jane, thank you so much for being here and being supportive.
Thank you for including me. Yeah.
We made it through the first show, so
yeah.
Great,
and congratulations to you, Elaine. Way to go.
Thank you, Jane. Appreciate it. You've got a lot more under your belt, so it'll take me a while to catch up.
No, you're doing just fine. You're doing just fine. It's
Thanks
great.
A lot.
Yeah, really good. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you both.
You too.
All right.
We will talk to you later.
Bye.